All right. Good afternoon, everybody, and hope everyone's safe and healthy. And it's been a few weeks since we joined you. I know we got an extension with the tax season. So I am here today with Joshua Lance and the head of accounting with Practice Ignition. And so we are excited for you guys to join us today, listen in. We're going to be talking about the latest trends and what's going on in the accounting industry. And so Joshua, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule. And please tell us more about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. My name is Josh Lance. I am the head of accounting at Practice Ignition. And really my role there is helping firms kind of grow and build better firms using technology. And so I interact and work a lot with firm owners, hear their kind of pains and struggles and things like that, and kind of help them kind of, grow their practice or even get the right processes and technology in place to help facilitate that. In addition to that, I also run a CPA firm. So I'm the founder and managing director of Lance CPA Group, which is a fully virtual remote CPA practice that I've ran for the past 6 years. So, some of that even helps me with my role at Practice Ignition too, of just kind of telling how we've kind of done things and how we've changed and adapted as things have changed and adapted in the accounting world.
Right, it's a lot's gone on, and to say the least. Now, how did you get into the whole the CPA field, and is there a backstory behind it, or is it just kind of something you always wanted to do, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of something I've always wanted to do. So I first got introduced with accounting in high school. My high school had accounting classes you could take, and I took them, and I thought they were really great. And so I was like, yeah, I guess that's what I'll major in when I go to college. And so I graduated from college, landed at a large CPA firm as an auditor and I was doing that for about 7 years. Left, as a lot of people do, leave public accounting and they go to corporates. I went to a family office, was a controller for a bit before launching my own practice. I've kind of seen both sides of the table there, been with kind of larger firms now in a smaller practice, and kind of see how those kind of things are different and kind of things that smaller firms have advantages of as far as being more agile and being more ability to kind of take advantage of new technology, new things that are out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And prior to the pandemic, and it seemed sometimes that accounts could be transactional accounts, and it's evolving to more of a holistic advisor. And what have you noticed in this transition of how firms are managing with their clients? And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think, pre-pandemic, a lot of firms were very traditional, kind of set in their ways and kind of follow this. Well, we'll just do the same thing we did last year, and we're not really going to rock the boat as far as change or anything like that, right? And if you ask them, like, hey, what do you think about remote, staff or doing things virtually with your clients before the pandemic, they're like, oh, that's not going to happen. That's not how we work. That's not how clients want to work, right? Like we can't, and I can't trust my team, whatever, all that. And so there's all these excuses that exist. And then the pandemic happened, which forced that shift into like, okay, you actually have to change now. In other words, you're not going to exist as a CPA practice anymore. And so, I think some of the things they were fearful of or things like, oh, that won't work, they had to put in place, and saw that it actually did work, and it worked actually pretty well, and saw the kind of advantages of like, okay, well, I can make these changes and I can try new things like having remote staff, or try new things like leveraging technology and work with my clients virtually, and it still works, and it still in a lot of ways can be better. And so some of that fear now is gone of, okay, this won't work, or I can't trust my employees, they're just going to work at home, be at home watching Netflix all the time and not do any work, right? They saw that like actually this does work, and we can actually be even more productive in this environment. So I think that this has kind of been a real huge catalyst of change, and now firms are really starting to think about, okay, how do I not just use this as a temporary, well, here's how I had to work for this period of time, and then when things get back to normal, I can go back to my prior way of working, but like, how can I continue this on and grow my practice in this new kind of world and this new kind of paradigm that we're in?
It's so funny because you're spot on, and the remote workforce is nothing new. I mean, the internet started 30, 40 years ago, and remote working has been started ever since. But yeah, the accounting industry has just been slow to adapt, or just always turned a blind eye to it. And then boom, They get pushed right into it. So the first thing you need to do is, holy cow, how do I manage the team remotely? What's going on, right? So are you finding clients that are coming to you are completely lost, or are they having a good idea? There's a lot of hesitation, especially with that word cloud. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think there is just a lot of information out there, right? And sometimes it's hard to sift through and kind of, okay, what do I actually do here, right? And you can listen to a lot of different webinars and see all the great technology or like all the different ways of running your practice or growing your practice, but how do I actually tangibly do that, right? Like those are good, lofty, nice ideas. And I can see the value and fruit of it, especially now that you've kind of started to adapt to some of these things. But how do I actually tangibly do this on a day-to-day basis and make those changes and kind of reshape my firm to take advantage of this new situation, right? And so I think that's where a lot of firms are kind of in right now is, okay, what do I do next? Like, what's my next step in this? And how do I, use what I've learned this past year and adapt into these changes? And how do I continue to do that going forward? And what are those kind of next right steps for our company, right? And so a lot of the firms that I talk to, that's kind of where they're at is they know the change needs to happen. They've seen the change being fruitful in their firm so far. And they're just trying to figure out, how do I continue to do this? And what are my next steps in doing it?
Yeah, it's once you get involved with the new the practice workflow and your structure, and you'll see the technology, you could love it, you could hate it, but you have to embrace it, and it's there for you. But there's always that concern, especially with the sensitivity of the data there. And so what have you guys seen as far as questions in regards to that, or has that been a big hesitation, or has that been easy to overcome?
Yeah, I think there are people who have that question of like, okay, we're using cloud technology and is that secure or not, right? And some of the things I talk to them about is, okay, well, what are you doing right now? And a lot of times it's, well, we have a server in our office and it sits there and that's where all the information's at and that's where we access it. Is that secured? How do you know that's secure, right? Like how much money are you putting towards security towards that? I have a friend who was in a firm in Seattle, and that's what their thought was. We have this great, server in our office. We have some security on it. We feel safe and confident. Well, their server got breached during the tax season. Their information was used. They couldn't file returns. Like it was a huge mess. And they thought they had that security in place. And the reality is like, the amount of money that cloud companies put towards security is insane. Like that's a huge concern for them. And if the security doesn't work for, some of these cloud apps that you'd be utilizing, or there's a huge security breach, like that could be the end of that business, right? There's so much riding on that security. And so they're putting a lot of effort in it. They're going through audits in it. They're have people whose dedicated job is to ensure the security of their software. And that's something probably you don't have in your office. And that's something you're probably not doing on your servers or the kind of desktop applications you may be using already, right? And so, when that question comes up of, is this secure or how I trust it? It's, well, what are you doing towards keeping your stuff secure and what are these companies doing? And you start to see, okay, well, this is a huge priority for them. They have a lot of things in place to keep things secure, really more so than you'll ever do, especially as a small firm owner. Kind of putting your trust in those companies. They have to kind of fulfill that and keep things secure and not have data breaches or downtime or things like that. And so they're going to invest the money and effort in doing that much more than you'll ever be able to do in your own office or to protect your own server.
Yeah, spot on. And what I'm noticing too is with clients is that they're kind of with their clients kind of fed up. Right. At one time, one extension after another extension kept coming, and things are still delayed. Documents waiting on certain items, and I'm seeing a lot of clients kind of not necessarily fire, but set new onboarding procedures in place. Yeah. So when you first started, you said you're a cloud only firm. Were you like that the entire time, and kind of why did you go right into that model?
Yeah, so I think for me, when I started MYCPE Group, I knew I wanted to leverage the latest technology. My experience in my prior CPA firm, we actually had a lot of great technology in place. We just weren't utilizing it well. It'd be a little bit of situations where we'd go on a client site to do work, and when everyone's just in the conference room on their laptops doing the work. Like we could have done that at home. Like we didn't have to travel to the client site and sit in the conference room to do that, right? And so I know the power of technology and utilizing it, and I also knew the things I wanted in my own life, right? Like I didn't want to be tied to an office. I wanted to see my family. I wanted to kind of set my own way of working, and I wanted that for my employees too. And so when I started, the whole idea at the beginning was to be fully virtual and have fully remote employees and use all cloud-based technology, because we could not only kind of build the firm that I wanted, but serve the way the clients the way I wanted to. So we're highly niched in the craft beer industry. We're highly niched in digital agencies, and so we serve those clients across the country. We're not local to where I'm at in Chicago, and that's a huge benefit to us. And that was kind of the idea in the beginning of let's have this focused industry of where we're going to work. Let's use the latest technology. Let's have a remote workforce and really leverage all those things to our advantage.
Yeah, it's refreshing to hear this, because you said it yourself. A lot of times you can hire and you can work with clients nationwide. They don't have to just be in your specific town.
Yeah.
And clients that are moving, you don't have to be fully virtual, but yeah, you had to become partially virtual. And clients are starting to realize, my clients, that they can hire and have clients anywhere. And it's like, yeah, you could have had this the whole time.
Right.
And so with your team in place and remote workforce in general, obviously you're comfortable with it. Is there any advice or any assistance you guys give with that, as far as when the clients are looking to hire new staff now virtually?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great advantages to that, right? Like you're opening up your talent pool beyond just where you live, right? And especially if you maybe don't live in a highly populous area, or there isn't a great talent pool around you, right? Like you're now leveraging, kind of the best and brightest talent across the country, which I think is super helpful. And it's something that really allows you to get really quality people into your firm as a result. Because not a lot of firms are doing that, right? The pandemic kind of shifted that focus, and now firms are seeing, okay, that's a viable option. But that's still something that's not, people aren't doing it across the board. And so, I hear firms talk about the struggle to hire and struggle to get people into their firms. And then when you talk about it, it's like, they have these kind of very old, outdated processes. They're looking for a set person. It has to be local. They got to come to my office and all these things. And they're really limited in themselves to that point. Yeah. And as you look to kind of say, okay, well, if I can have that person work wherever and serve my clients, and do the work I need to do, I don't need them to come to an office, and they can be where they live or wherever that may be. And with the technology in place, that becomes real easy to facilitate that. And so now that kind of shifts things to where, you can really get the right people in that fit your firm well. And, I know when we go and hire and put a job posting out there, we'll get hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of applications for an accounting job. Whereas if I just probably, focus locally, I may get 10 or 5, right? And I'm not really, maybe getting the best and brightest talent at that time, right? So this is really kind of expands that out and really ensures you get the right talent into your firm.
Yeah, and being able to work with the technology and have the staff not just in your specific area. And yes, this is American economy, but this has always been a global economy.
Yeah,
and it's starting to make people realize too. Heck, I got off a call right before this where the client had worked with offshore staff in the Philippines, India, and Australia. I was like, wow. So I don't have to spend time talking to you about the offshore concept in 3 different countries. I mean, it is everywhere. And so that's really opened up the eyes for the accounting community, because specifically the small to mid-sized market for sure. Sole practitioners, I think like once you reach that 10 to 12 spot, it's really hard to go to the next step and kind of scale your business and practice. But with technology and the ability to have remote staff in place, it's just like us having this meeting today. It's awesome. We don't have to be in person. And are you seeing, as you continually scale and grow, are you working with any offshore staff? Are you just working with remote staff here in the States or in your town? Or how's that aspect been for you?
Yeah, so we have, like I said, we're fully remote as far as our staffing goes. Everyone right now is currently based in the U.S. That has not always been totally the case, but that's the case right now. And I think it's really for us, it's just getting the right capacity in there, right? And And I think that's a huge issue in firms, is understanding what their capacity is, and then trying to make sure you have the right capacity in place and fits the right roles, right? So like for us, like we're even, as we look into this next, 6 months, we're re-envisioning kind of like how even our staffing looks, and knowing that we have staff that, may not want to be client facing, right, and be more internal, right? Well, if that's the case, when you start to build that out, that really now opens up this talent pool of, okay, we can have a lot of people, regardless if they could be in the US, they could be, 12 hours a different time zone. But if they're all kind of, serving that kind of same goal and that same level of work, that kind of serves that need, right? And so, I think in talking to a lot of firm owners, they're seeing that aspect of, I really need capacity to handle these types of roles and this type of work, and I need to get that off my plate too. And I think that's a big thing as a firm owner, especially smaller firms, is the struggle to keep everything in your kind of on your plate, right? And you can't grow or scale a firm that way. And so finding that capacity and getting the right people in to do that, and that may be local to you, that may be on the other side of the country, maybe it's the other side of the world. But understanding kind of your model and what you need lets you kind of figure out what's the best fit for you, and then to get that staff in and make that work.
Absolutely, spot on. And with the accounting community in general, I mean, it's I think I was reading about it's growing over the next decade. It's supposed to grow another 4%, and it's on par with most industries. So I mean, it's not going anywhere, especially with the ever-changing laws, regulatory environment, the globalization of it. So a lot's going to be changing. And so that leads me to asking, is this the future? Is this now, or is it going to keep evolving? Or what are your thoughts as far as the accounting industry in the next decade?
I mean, I think the pace of change is only going to get quicker and faster, right?
Yeah.
And your firm needs to be able to adapt that change and take advantage of that change. And if you can, you're going to see massive growth in your firm. And if you can't, you're not willing to, you're going to see your firm start to shrink up a bit and die, right? Because the way the economy is moving, the way businesses need help from their accountants is changing, right? And so you have to be adaptable to that. And if you are, then you're going to reap the rewards of that growth that will happen. But you have to have that change that happens first, right? And so I think with a lot of firms with the pandemic, that's kind of started been a catalyst of change. But do you keep that change going forward, or do you stop again and kind of get stuck in your ways? And as we see things grow and change, and the technology change with it, right? Like we know intrinsically that some of the manual type work that we do is going to shrink over time, because technology is going to replace a lot of that to make it more efficient and effective. And as that happens, we have to be able to change our focus between doing the actual work and then advising our clients and changing the priority of our time there, right? And so I think as we see things change, we start to see more of that kind of shift of, okay, how are we actually serving our clients? And I think the pandemic also kind of pushed that on the client side of clients expected more. They needed more help. They needed help kind of understand what's the kind of, go through this, time period and come out the other side in a place where they can still be successful. And so a lot of accountants stepped into that role to help that out and kind of develop that. And as such, we'll see more of that kind of need from the clients. You have to be able to serve that. And if you're solely stuck on just, doing the work, you're going to miss out on that opportunity as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, the attitude of if it ain't broke, why fix it? But change is constant, no matter what industry you're working in. And I see it very prevalent where they're stuck in their own ways. And it's unfortunate because there's just so many tools and resources right there for you to take full advantage of. If you have the right mix of people and your processes and technology, shoot, I mean, the sky's the limit, as you could say. And but also what I've seen this take a toll on, and we kind of talked about it but right before the call with our taking a trip, is mental health. I mean, it's been straining, and I mean, I've worked remotely for 4 years. You owned a virtual firm, so nothing new for us, but still, I was in complete shock, and I ended up, I tell this story in a weekly webinar that I do, and I was supposed to go on vacation March 17th. That day, the borders closed. And for some reason, I went to the store and I just bought pastries and donuts and cake, and I just ate for one straight week, and I didn't even realize it. So
Yeah.
and then with all the changing and the 3 Ps all the time and
Yeah.
hearing that, I mean, what have you seen, and what are some things that you do to kind of relax yourself nowadays?
Yeah, I think you have to have that focus on your own mental health and self-care, and pay attention to that. And I know, especially for accountants, we did a lot to serve clients and help in their time of need, and kind of put ourselves to the back burner. But we do have to take care of ourselves, because otherwise we'll burn out, we'll get sick, our mental health will just go down to the tubes, right? And so paying attention, that's important. For me, I just really get out once a day and just kind of walk around and listen to a podcast and just kind of relax a bit, and take that time for myself, right? And that's not selfish at all, right? Like, I need that to recharge. I need that to be effective to my teammates, to my clients, to all the firms I work with in Practice Ignition, right? Like, I need to have that time for myself. Otherwise, I'm not going to be effective in any of those arenas. And so I think to most, for accounting firms to spend some time focusing in on that it is important, and know, like, this is stressful, and there's a lot going on. There's been a lot of change in tax law, and a lot of change in how you're serving your clients, and know that you have to take care of your staff and make sure they're seeing that. And I've seen too many times where firm owners or business owners will promote mental health and do those things, but they won't do it for themselves. And then the teammates or the people who are working for them say, like, well, if they're not going to do it themselves, like, I'm not going to do it as well, or they don't seem to be as important, or maybe that was just lip service they were paying there. And you actually do have to take care of yourself. And so, at our firm, one of the things that we do to even incentivize that for our team is we give them a $50 stipend every month for self-care purposes. So they can take that. And if that is to pay for some yoga classes, is that the massage, if that is to buy some books to read, because that's what self-care means to them, then go ahead and do that, because that awesome. if you're taking care of yourself, you'll be able to take care of your clients better. You'll be in a better state of mind, and be able to kind of deal with everything that's going on.
Yeah, a lot of people just you got this, especially with the season that we're currently in. You still have to take a moment for yourself, and realize that you're not a robot. None of us are robots, and you take that time, and also check in with your team, because moving to the remote environment, there were a lot of clients I work with that were like, I'm here today because I just lost my whole team. No one wanted to work remotely. They were all uncomfortable, and I didn't know. The clients say, I didn't realize this. I didn't know this. What do I do? And they just could envision this, and we were able to help them out. But at the same time, check in with it, like you said, one-on-one, right? If make sure that you make yourself vulnerable, available, and be humble, but also check in one-on-one, because you never know what's going on, and if you don't speak with them.
Yeah, and I think too, like, when you go remote, or you now have remote employees, you have to be more proactive and connected with them. Because if you don't, then they just feel very left out, kind of on an island by themselves, where they get isolated. They feel like, okay, no one cares about me, no one's checking in on me. Do they even care that I exist here, right? And you have to do that, right? You have to be more proactive in that measure, more something even in the office, right? And so that's something that is a bit of an adjustment. And I think a lot of people learned that over this past year of, okay, like, this does feel a little isolating. Like, there are benefits when you're in the office, because you get to meet and chat with people and have human connection, right? You need to replicate that somehow in the virtual world, the virtual environment. So I think that was a bit of a learning curve for a lot of firms as they transition, was, okay, we have to be more proactive in checking in our people, making sure they're okay, do one-on-ones, and not about what work they're working on, but okay, what's going on in your life? Are you doing okay? Are you feeling right? Is there anything I can help you with? Is there anything we can do to make sure you're better connected, or is there things that are worrying you, right? Like, just have those kind of honest conversations, and that does a lot to really strengthen the bonds of your team and make sure they stick with you through this. That's a very small thing that goes so far. It goes beyond anything, because it's just taking that moment to reach out. They say everything's okay, doesn't matter. That moment that you took at each other's time will go a long way. Yeah, for sure. Josh, awesome. We had a lot of good things to talk about today. Any final thoughts before we sign off? Yeah, I think for anyone who's just thinking about change in their practice, make sure you take it in methodical, don't try to change everything at once. Work it through step by step, get buy-in from your team members, have team members champion different changes that you're having in your firm. And that goes a long way to ensure those changes actually stick, and that you can make those kind of transitions to more nimble firm or virtual firm, or more a firm that's more adaptable for remote employees, and having people work wherever they're at around the world, and ultimately have a more successful firm as a result.
Absolutely, absolutely. So everyone check them out on LinkedIn. It is Joshua Lance CPA, also at practiceignition.com. Again, thank you for taking time out today. Awesome meeting with you. And for now, take care, and hopefully we'll speak soon. For everyone in the audience, have a great rest of the week, and we'll be back soon. Signing off. Take care, guys.